Hi, this is Leslie and Lynn, and we're back with week 2 of offering hopefully some useful tips on sheltering in. And particularly for those of you who are working from home. So you've been at it for about a week now. Think about your past week, particularly your schedule. I know some of you have had to just do a little free falling because you've got other folks in the house, but now's an opportunity to look at and evaluate what went well, what's going to work for you. What kind of structure have you put in place, if any, to make this working at home a little bit more, I don't know, feasible, palatable, helpful for you? It may be helpful to create a different type of routine. So if you tried working, say, from 8 to 5 and you realize you weren't really effective, then think about what happened within that time period. Did you actually give yourself a lunch hour? Did you actually give yourself a couple of breaks in the morning? And with the breaks, you want to take about 15 or 20 minutes of a break time during the morning. I've also seen that having a break actually working in chunks helps me. So, there are times when I decide I'm going to work for 2 or 3 hours at a time because I'm working on a big project. Well, that's not really realistic. I mean, I can get in the zone and work for about an hour or so, but I think I've gotten most productive when I work for about 45 minutes or so, and then I'll stop, take a break, and then I'll get back to it.
Another thing, and I think that's a great idea. I think another thing, and I've seen this over and over, is first thing in the morning, don't check your email.
Yeah.
Don't check your
Big
email or
time
social
waster.
media. Exactly. So you want to do first things first,
Mm-hmm.
and then because if you check your email first, then you're going to put somebody else's agenda ahead of what it is that you set out to do. So you have your list. You know what goals you have set for the morning or for the first time block. Focus on the first time block, and then maybe later in the day you can look at your email to check and see what's going on.
So, a small caveat about that. Now, don't look at your agenda if you work for yourself. Now, if you're working from home because your company says you've got to work from home,
Right.
then you might need to check your email, but be very judicious about, responding just to that work-related email.
Correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, I was also going to talk about the idea of working in your comfy clothes versus working in your work clothes.
So I
And
can't work in my pajamas?
well, you can. And some people have been doing it and they're quite fine. So the issue really is what works for you. Um, so the idea of if you have a meeting, and of course if you've got one of those Zoom or web platform calls, then of course you've got to put on a shirt and look very presentable. But just make sure that shirt is, not wrinkled and it doesn't have any stains on it. So you still want to be professional. But I brought this whole idea up because there are some folks who are pleased to be able to work in their comfortable clothes, but they may be finding, or you may be finding, that you're feeling sluggish in the morning, that you're not getting as much done, and it's really hard to get started. So for some people, it may really help to put on some type of clothing that's not necessarily your comfy, casual, or lounging on the sofa clothes, but something that signifies that it's work time. Because what's happening is, and at least I've noticed this in myself, is that how when you were little and we had to come home from school and change our clothes into our play clothes. Well, as adults, we come home, take off our work clothes, and we get comfortable. So psychologically, our mind is telling us, based on the way our body feels more relaxed with our comfortable clothes, that work time is over. So making a psychological shift to work, that's what putting on a top that says more, I'm going to be more professional. And so that may be helpful. And I would just suggest you try it as a trial, experiment it and experiment with different tops to see how it makes you feel. If you feel more energized by looking the part, so to speak, and working, then great. If you are able to focus and be just as effective and feel as energetic in your comfy clothes, then wonderful. But you'll find many people have been talking about this whole idea of working, in your comfy clothes versus in professional clothes. Any other tips
I think
you want
that
to
does
talk
it
about in
for-
terms of working professionally? I think the biggest thing is whatever you try, do it as a trial for 5 days, commit to it for 5 days, and then stop and reevaluate. So look at your dress after a week, see how that does, and then look at, again, your schedule, your work schedule. Make sure, oh, the other thing I wanted to say about your work schedule is there is a tendency, since you're working from home, to lose your boundaries and to work into the evening hours and nighttime hours. So all of a sudden now you're working about 10 hours a day. So that's not going to be very healthy if that's not what you're used to. So it's going to be really important for you to set those boundaries after work, or set a boundary of that time to stop working, whether it's at 4:30 or 5:30 or 6. Come up with a time and then stop, so that your body can know, time is up and you're not putting way more time than you should, but also so that you can have a little bit more of that balance that's needed. Okay.
And then reward yourself.
Oh,
Reward
yes.
yourself for doing what is different, doing what, for adjusting to this change.
Mm-hmm.
And in that reward, that could be your transition time from work to now you're going to change mode to playtime or family time or whatever, anything that's not work related.
Exactly. Thanks.